Good day, everybody, and welcome to today's episode on my YouTube video series. And today we're going to talk about LRT versus ART in Johor Bahru. Now, in case you didn't know, right, the Malaysia government is now considering to build an LRT or ART in Johor Bahru. The reason being is because we have this RTS, which is the MRT linking from Singapore to Johor Bahru, completing end of next year in December 2026, right, where we will carry 10,000 people per hour per direction. So you will have in JB City Centre a situation where 10,000 people appear every hour at the Johor Bahru City Centre, where City Square is and where the RTS station is. Now, this is a very uh, big side effect problem, which is now you have an area totally jammed because we don't have enough ways to disperse the people out into the rest of JB, right? So that's why the LRT, ART is needed, right, to sort of help disperse the people out into other parts of Johor Bahru because even today, before the RTS completion, this area is already fairly heavy traffic, right? Because cars, buses, right? And it's only a two-lane, maybe up to three-lane at most in front of City Square, I think. So it's very heavily trafficked, right? So you can imagine when the RTS is completed, even more people come in, even more traffic jam. Which is why the reason I tell most people, if you can, ideally still buy property near the RTS station where you can walk because the moment you have to drive out, right, 15 minutes, 20 minutes or 30 minutes, right, and this area will jam, right, you got shuttle bus, you got 10 shuttle bus also no use because the shuttle bus all stuck in the jam. Okay, so you want to take grab also not easy, right? So that's why like even my agents, right, when we resell property or we rent out property, right, we tell people it's time, even though you pay cheaper, right, property prices outside are cheaper, but the time you spend and the is a lot, right? It could potentially be a lot, right? Getting out there, transport costs and the time, right? So ideally, still buy near the RTS station. Walking distance is the best, right? 10, 15 minutes, right? As long as you can walk comfortably, reach your destination, right? It's still better than you take a car out because on paper sound near, right? But with the traffic coming out of this RTS, right, it may be a big problem. I show you the map here, right? This is what I mean, right? Where you notice that there's only a couple of roads here in and out, and this area is fairly developed, so there's no way, or maybe very difficult to extend the roads, right? So you need some form of traffic dispersal method. This is where the LRT, ART comes in. Now, LRT, of course, as everybody know, light rail transit, right? Like in Singapore, like in KL, right? Basically a train, usually four cars to carry people out on an elevated track, right? And something like an MRT, much smaller. So the LRT is projected to cost around maybe 20 billion ringgit, right, in Johor Bahru. Do watch my earlier video here if you want to find out where the LRT tracks are, right? How it disperses out, right? The interesting thing about LRT is that I think based on current alignment, it doesn't really pass by Danga Bay. So I'm not sure whether that will change. So for those of you people who buy Danga Bay one, you just take note. Actually, based on the previous alignment, it doesn't pass by Danga Bay, right? It's LRT. So that could be a problem. You're expecting the LRT to pass by Danga Bay. And the other problem is with the LRT is that there are three lines. We don't know which will get built first. Very unlikely that all three will be built together. Very likely they will build one by one, right? Because in JB, there are generally three different lines that they're looking at, right? So the LRT is better in the sense that it carries more people, right? Is a better, in terms of objective to move people out, right? LRT is better. The problem is that it costs more, right? And the problem with cost is that the Johor government for 20 billion, very unlikely the Johor government can fund this themselves. The money will need to also come from the federal government, right? So which is where the issue is. Some discussion or may go on, in terms of the money, right, to get to build this project. But I think the Johor government is inviting proposals from private sector to see how they can do this the best, right? Private sector proposals, right? So that's the LRT, right? The next option is actually the ART. Now, ART is an autonomous rail transit. Basically, it's like a tram, right? I think if I show you a photo, you know what I mean. So the ART, one thing good is cheaper, right? It only costs maybe about 7 billion to build all the three lines, apparently, because there is no track. LRT, normally what happens is they have a dedicated lane, right? And the ART travels along, they have some sensor on the ground that, or they fix along the line, like those robot train, right? So ART sometimes are driverless or minimal driving, right? And they can, they are cheaper, right? And of course they look quite nice, they look cool. But the problem with ART is that it doesn't carry that many people. In a way, it's just like a bigger bus, right? It's just like a big giant bus. And I think the viability of an ART as an option to carry people out is still being questioned. May not exactly solve the problem of congestion, right? So that's the issue with ART. But these two options are both being considered right now on whether to on how to disperse traffic, right, out of JP City Center, right. Whichever the case is, I think the issue is there's no time frame, right? So we don't know when this LRT or ART will be built, right? So some people ask me, Ryan, do we know where? Do we know when? I think nothing is confirmed at this stage, right? Nothing, right? Even the proposals for LRT tracks are just proposals only right now. I think very likely it will be quite similar, will not differ by much. But I mean, at this stage, it's still too early to say. Which is again why I tell people, if you don't drive, especially, it's still better to buy property near the RTS station. The best, even if you pay more, right? At least you have this you avoid another of these problems, which is the shuttle bus or the traffic jam issue near the RTS station, right? So yeah. So and then talking about this, right? What's the likelihood of this happening? I mean, the likelihood is there because like in Penang, Penang just got confirmed their LRT stations, LRT tracks in January last month, right? So this also in Penang also was in discussion for a few years, right? And finally, Penang government and the state government and the federal government confirm their funding, so they will build the LRT in Penang. So the Penang LRT is more straightforward. There's only one line. I think it's quite obvious because Penang Island is only so big, and it's very obvious where the line will travel, right, in Penang. So roughly along the urban side of Penang Island, which is on the east, right, all the way to the bottom to the reclaimed island, the bottom, and then it cuts across to Butterworth, along the bridge, right? So that's the Penang one. So it can happen, right? Even in KL today, we have I think two LRT tracks today, and third one being built, right? So we have two MRTs in KL. So these kind of projects are not to say never happen, right? It will happen. It's just a question of time and trying to sort out the details, which can take a lot of time. Okay, but yeah, I think it's in my confidence that JB will get LRT or some form at some point in the future, right? But the problems we don't know when. So if you're going to buy as an investor, right, you can't really buy with any confidence right now that your project will be near LRT station because it's not confirmed in this stage. But of course, it's quite necessary, right? Because you need to disperse traffic from the city center, right? So let me know what you think about this topic, right? What you feel about LRT, ART, right? How big the problem will be? Do you think the shuttle bus can still go through or not? Or what other solutions you have? You think you can propose to the government to solve this problem, right? Hope you enjoyed this video. If you do like it, please like, share, and subscribe. Share to your friends. Subscribe. We're trying to hit 10,000 followers this year in 2025. Thank you very much, and bye bye.